We call this meeting to order at 5:02. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular virtual board meeting tonight that all can participate in remotely. You may join via Zoom. Specific directions on how to participate are located on the Board of Education webpage on the district website, nvusd.org/board. Public comment on closed session items and the open session part of the meeting agenda, to remind everybody, starts at 7 p.m. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment, virtual public comment on closed session items?
There's no comment at this time.
Thank you very much. Seeing as there is no public comment, we will go to closed session. Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Robin Jankowitz, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School Board, excuse me, Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight that all can participate remotely via Zoom or in person here in the boardroom. Interpretation in Spanish is available for tonight's virtual board meeting. Our interpreters are Isidra Mencos and Francisco Meza. May we have one of the interpreters translate the directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families can hear the instructions.
Buenas noches. La reunión de la Junta del Distrito Escolar de Napa Valley de esta noche tiene servicios de interpretación simultánea en español. Para acceder al canal de interpretación simultánea, en breves momentos ustedes van a ver en la pantalla, en la parte de abajo de Zoom, un icono del globo terráqueo. Pueden hacer clic en ese icono y entonces escoger el idioma Spanish. Si ustedes están en un teléfono móvil, pueden ver que va a haber abajo del Zoom 3 puntitos o algo que dice more o más. Al hacer clic allí van a tener la opción de escoger la interpretación en español. Gracias.
Gracias. May we please start with an attendance roll call from Vera Morales, Executive Assistant.
Yes, Student Board Member Bitt,
Present.
Trustee Jankowitz,
Present.
Trustee Gracia,
Present.
Trustee Water,
Present.
Trustee Reiser is absent tonight. Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Present.
Trustee Shu,
Present.
Trustee Dooley. Quorum present. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vera. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Napa Valley Unified School District Board meeting. Public participation tonight and moving forward will be both virtual, online, and in person here in the boardroom. We welcome everyone back. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. We reconvened to open session at 7:09. Trustee Water, do we have a report on closed session items?
Yes, we do. E1, student discipline. E1A, expulsions, number of cases, 3. Number 1, the board recommends for the expulsion for student 3172022A.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley. Roll call vote, please, Vera.
Trustee Jankowitz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
2, the board recommends for the expulsion for student 3172022B.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Roll call vote, please, Vera.
Trustee Jankowitz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia, Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
3, the board recommends for the expulsion for student 3172022C.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Shu. Roll call vote, please, Vera.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
trustee Shu,
Aye.
trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
And in E2A personnel, in closed session, the board took action to approve the following staff recommendations. 1, Julie Bordas to the position of Director of Communications and Community Relations, effective June 13, 2022. And 2, Mary Ann Christofferson to the position of Director 3, Student Services. Congratulations to both of them.
Thank you so much, trustee Water, for reporting out. I do know that Julie Bordes, our communications director, wasn't available this evening, but I believe our current principal Christopherson, who will be our future student services director, is on the call. If she could be promoted in order to address the board.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Good evening, Dr. Musetti, President Jankowicz, Board of Trustees, student board members, directors, and community members. I want to thank the Board of Trustees for this new opportunity to lead NVUSD in the Director of Student Services position. I am honored to join such an amazing team at the district level. I realize I have big shoes to fill in being the one chosen to follow the exemplary work of Director Mansway. I look forward to sharing my expertise and knowledge with Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings and the entire team of directors. The past 15 years of working and leading at Redwood Middle School have been remarkable and have well prepared me for this next step in my leadership story. Thank you for the time this evening, and I look forward to our work together on behalf of the students in the Napa Valley Unified School District. Thank you so much.
Trustee Dooley, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
I'd be happy to. Please rise and put your hands over your hearts. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For a detailed review of any meeting agenda item, the archived video can be referenced and located on the district webpage at nvusd.org. The public can also join the board meeting remotely via Zoom. Participation instructions and the process for public comment can be found on the district webpage. Approval of the minutes. If I may, I would like to make an amendment motion to F4. I would like to move informational item M1E, which is the COVID-19 public health state mandates and guidelines for California TK-12 public schools, including updated mask guidelines, to follow reports I3 and prior to J, approval of the consent agenda. May I please get an amendment motion?
Move to approve as amended.
Thank you. First by trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by trustee Water. All in favor?
Aye.
Amendment motion passes. Thank you. Now may I please get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Yes, it's, yeah. First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Chu. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes. May I please get a motion on the approval of minutes for March 3rd? First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
March 3rd minutes approved. Approval of minutes on March 8th special board meeting.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Thank you. Opposed? Motion passes. Dr. Musetti, recognition of visitors and employee organizations.
Yes, it's my pleasure to recognize we have two of our labor union presidents here, and they're actually here present in the boardroom. So they're our first, our first participants after 2 years. So Ms. Young, President of NVA, would you like to address the board?
Yes. Good evening, Board of Trustees. I am so very glad that we are back in person, that we're able to be here, that we can actually see you and actually be able to listen and discuss. I'm looking forward to some of the presentations tonight, specifically the second interim report. That's kind of something that is always interesting. Here's my cohort friend.
Okay.
Welcome, Leslie Walder, the president of NAPS. Welcome, Leslie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Dr. Musetti, President Jankowicz, trustees of the Board of Education, Student Representative Bitt, and members of the Napa Valley Unified School District community. As I stand here tonight, I was reflecting upon where we were a little over 2 years ago. It was March 13th of 2020. I remember sitting in this front row, distance 6 feet apart from the nearest chair. And we were really standing on the precipice of what we knew, what not. And I want to, as we come back together in person this 2 years later, during this time, I have been privileged to watch this board in action. I have learned more about the district from the opportunity to view the meetings on Zoom. My respect for the work that you do, the integrity with which you do it, your perseverance in the face of, at times, ad hominem, vitriolic attacks, fills me with gratitude and appreciation for what you do on behalf of the students of our district. So sincere thank you to all of you, to everyone who stands here tonight, and those of you on Zoom. It's good to be back in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I do not see a representative from CSEA on tonight. So thank you.
Okay. One of our favorite parts of the evening, recognition of Students of the Month. Want to remind everybody that this is generously sponsored by the Napa Valley Education Foundation, and we continue to express our gratitude. And Principal Cisneros, I believe you have the honor of having 2 schools to present this evening.
That I do. Good evening, Dr. Musetti, Board of Trustees and community. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight. Tonight, I do have both schools, Valley Oak and Independent Studies, and I will start with Independent Studies. In presenting Jaylee Rivas, she is our January Student of the Month, and she was nominated by Jessica Farrell. Mrs. Farrell, that is her teacher that manages all of her courses. Ms. Farrell shares about Jaylee that she is she's getting close to graduation. She is an amazing writer, and everything she turns this is 100% done on a weekly basis. She is definitely a model for independent studies. And I know that I also hear from her counselor just in terms of, being a self-driven young woman, and we look forward to hearing about her successes in the future. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jaylee, and she's going to share a little bit about her plans with the school board and Dr. Musetti. Thank you. Jaylee, can you join us, please?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my experience, albeit I'm not sure why. It's not much of a story. I began attending Vintage High School in the fall of 2020 and found that I still did not enjoy the traditional high school experience. So my mom encouraged me to talk to the counselor there to see how I could make myself happier. He suggested that I try NVIS since I am very self-motivated, as well as I could graduate earlier. This piqued my interest, for it would help me to escape what I feel to be the oppressions of the education system. I made the transfer immediately and began attending at the beginning of 2021. Since then, I've come to enjoy most of the teachers and the freedom this program has allowed me. I have found success in all of my classes, and I am especially proud of my essays. I believe that they are all well written and have good closing arguments, if you can call it that. Before I moved to Napa, I was a Girl Scout and I volunteered plenty, and I once housed a foreign exchange student for a week. Despite my desire to help others, the only community service work I've done in Napa is staging at a local restaurant. When I turn 16, I plan to begin working full-time, seeing as I will not be in high school anymore, and plan to work for, well, I guess the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next student is Nevea Wolosak. She is, again, an independent studies student. She's our February student of the month. And Ms. Lucero nominated her. She says, when I first met Nevea as a student in my financial algebra class, from the first class with me, Nevea has consistently turned in quality work and is eager to put an effort to succeed. I appreciate her thoughtful questions during our advisory class and her commitment to learning. This semester, Ms. Ray learned that Nevea turned her academic trajectory around after her sophomore year when she moved in with her father. She went from failing many classes to earning all A's last semester. She is now on track to graduate in June and is very proud of the dedication that she has put in to get to this point. I am sure that Nevea's strong communication and organizational skills will help her in whatever she pursues in life, and I look forward to hearing about the positive impact she makes in the future. It is with great pleasure that I nominate Nevea for Student of the Month. So she is going to share a little bit about her future and her experience in the NVUSD School District. Nevea, can you join us, please?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here. And I'd like to start off by saying that I appreciate my teachers and the district for acknowledging the hard work that I've been putting in this year and recognizing my efforts. School has never been an easy accomplishment for me, but my teachers at NVIS have definitely changed my mindset on that. Although I am doing online school, I have never experienced such hands-on learning and support throughout my academic career. Being able to work with great teachers in this online environment has provided me with the tools I have needed to grow and be successful. My plans after high school are to go to the Napa JC for 2 years and then transfer to Chico State and study psychology. I would like to say thank you to everyone who has been involved in my education and who has helped me in the last stretch of my high school career. Thank you all for the support and awarding me with Student of the Month. I greatly appreciate it and am very honored I was chosen.
Well, thank you, and congratulations to both of our NVIS Students of the Month.
Thank you so much for that. I am not sure if Cadence or Juno Ryan and Daniela Beltran are here. I know that Juno was selected as her January Student of the Month. She is just an outstanding young woman. She actually graduated yesterday. She's very shy, but what I can tell you about her is that she is someone that was committed to her education when she joined Valley Oak, did everything possible for her to graduate early and committed to her studies. And we look forward to hearing more about Juno as she moves forward to the community college. Daniela, or February Student of the Month, was very shy when I talked to her about the opportunity to come and speak to the board and share a little bit of her story. She actually asked me if she could rescind the nomination. But both of the young ladies are very grateful for this honor and this recognition by the school board and the Education Foundation. So thank you to you all.
Well, thank you very much, and please pass on our congratulations.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Cisneros. We will move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Members of the audience may address the board on any school-related matter that is not on the agenda. The board will not take action on any issue raised during this section of the agenda, inasmuch as board action is limited to posted agenda items. Speakers are requested to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Trustee Water, do we have any public comment on non-agenda items received via email at publiccomment@nvusd.org?
No public comments on non-agenda items were submitted via email.
Thank you very much. We do not have any in-person public comment. So Mr. Michaels, do we have any virtual public comment on non-agenda items?
We do. First speaker is the initials DJ. Go ahead, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
And
Great. So I'd like to just say that it's amazing to see you guys' faces. It's really fantastic. It's progress moving on. I would like to bring to the board's attention that there is bullying happening in the schools, mostly from those people who feel that their job, probably because their parents have instilled in them a great sense and fear of COVID, to really ostracize those who choose to not mask, which is their right. And this bullying is unacceptable. I'd also like to bring to your attention that most teachers, out of a fear of COVID, lingering fears, have their windows open, and that creates a lot of waste. As I understand it, there is one location for the thermostat, for the heaters and the AC for the district. And with all the windows open, it's completely senseless. And this waste of electricity and energy is kind of insane. So if there's some way to move control to actual schools themselves, that'd be amazing. I'd also like to say that it's amazing in the society where everyone is confused and disagrees with everyone else, that the board manages to have everyone vote the same way on everything. And it seems very disingenuous that there isn't discussion on critical topics where you actually get into the meat of the issue and disagree with each other. I'd also like to say that it's really reprehensible that a majority, 100 people came to you with an issue, and by your bylaws, you were required to put it on the agenda, and you chose not to. And I don't understand that. Anyway, thank you, and happy St. Paddy's to the Welsh and Irish out there.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any additional public comment?
We do. And next speaker is George Blair. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Hello.
It's not often for most of us that we get the chance to stand up and show how morally courageous we are or aren't. Rosa Parks had one such chance. She took it and did the right thing. She took flack for it at the time, but now we know Rosa Parks is a hero. Gandhi had a few opportunities. He consistently did the right thing. Martin Luther King, the same. Henry David Thoreau, the same. These historical heroes typically took a lot of flack during their lives for doing the right thing, but they stood strong. One thing all these moral stalwarts had in common, they all stood up against immoral authority. It wasn't easy, but they did it. Now we recognize them as heroes of civil rights. The 1960s Milgram experiment showed that 70% of people will commit terrible evil upon their fellow humans if only an authority figure tells them to. Imagine how much higher that 70% would be if the white-coated authority figure in the Milgram experiment was also paying the subjects to commit evil unto others. That's the situation today in hospitals, which is why they're still killing people with the expensive drug remdesivir rather than treating them with far more effective, far cheaper alternatives. And it's the situation today with schools, as schools are receiving money to carry out these totalitarian, quote unquote, COVID mandates. Nevertheless, in the next few months, each of you board members will probably be presented with a rare opportunity to show your own moral courage. Some big pharma funded authority will probably give you the chance to either pass or fail a real life Milgram experiment. You can show that you are among the 30% or fewer who have the moral courage to stand up against immoral authority by saying, no, we here at Napa Unified are not going to coerce people to have their bodies penetrated with a medical experiment for which these criminal pharmaceutical companies are not even liable for the damages. And if you do that, then you will join the ranks of the Rosa Parks, the Henry David Thoreaus, and the Nelson Mandelas of history. Imagine that.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Mr. Michaels, do we have additional public comment?
Yes, we do. Next speaker is El Grega. Go ahead, please.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here with your faces. Most of you, it's the first time I'm seeing your faces move and talk. How wonderful it must feel to have the partitions down and be close. And doesn't look like there's many people there. I guess it's a holiday. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is just I'm going to read a couple of things. The first one is NVUSD bylaw 9322 on agenda/meeting materials. Quotes, any board member or member of the public may request that a matter within the jurisdiction of the board be placed on the agenda of a regular meeting. The request shall be submitted in writing to the superintendent or designee with supporting documents and information. If any, at least 1 week before the scheduled meeting date. Items submitted less than a week before the scheduled meeting date may be postponed to a later meeting in order to allow sufficient time for consideration and research of the issue. So I think that it's suffice it to say the mask resolution that was sent in, and not speaking on masking or anything like that, I'm still on non-agenda. We would like to see that on agenda by the next meeting. I didn't think that there was a reason to go back and forth. We had made our request very clear and gone through the process of getting over 100 signatures. So I am interested in having the conversation about what exactly a resolution could look like when that agenda item comes up this evening. And I have something written that I'd like to go on record saying. But it's not like a big old hanging question mark above your heads and our heads that we know that this is something that you have to do. It's not like, do you really want to do it? Or because this thing is gone, like, no, we want to do it. That's why we asked, regardless of what whim happens from the state of emergency down. We asked for it. So we'd like to see that come through. And, we want you to go on record saying that that resolution will be heard within the next time of the next board meeting. Even if it needs to be a special meeting, make some time, set some time aside for it. That would be nice. The other thing that I just want to quickly mention is that while I represent a community, I'm one person. And when I spoke, very clearly, I've spoken very clearly in the past about my feelings. We want to be represented in a way that is inclusive. That doesn't mean putting our agenda item at the end of the meeting means that we're not going to get to speak on what we want to speak on. It's about the whole community, whether we have a different opinion than others. That makes sense.
Next speaker.
We have no more further public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Michaels. Okay, we will move on to reports. We will start with student board member Bitt, and Emily, please start us off.
All right. Hi, everybody. Okay, I want to start off by saying happy St. Patrick's Day and apologies to those who can't be here with us today because they're celebrating. So on March 8th, I presented to the Napa County Board of Supervisors at their general meeting. And I will say it was one of the most chaotic and nerve-wracking presentations I've ever delivered, being at school and all. But I was extremely grateful for the opportunity, and I'm eager to see what the future holds. And on March 15th, I attended the Napa County Office of Education meeting to listen and comment on the My Commons Charter petition item. I did stay on for about 2.5 hours, but I had to leave for my badminton game. But thanks to Trustee Dooley, I was informed that the Office of Education did end up voting no, which was definitely great news. But that concludes my report for this week.
Thank you. Trustee Dooley?
This is new. I'm getting to do my report early instead of last. So let me find my notes. So on March 4th, I met with a couple leaders from On the Move to talk about the neighborhood initiative and the parent leadership work that they are doing through the family resource centers. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to a long and fruitful relationship with that organization. On the 10th, I attended the American Canyon High School Choir Concert. Thank you to Jamie Butler for the invitation, and it was incredible work that those students have done to put on a great show that takes the place of some of the festival competitions that they would do in a regular year. On the 12th, I saw the vintage choir at the Little League opening day, which was a surprise, but it was good to see. On the 15th, I attended the County Office of Education meeting regarding the Mayacamas Charter petition, and also peeked in at the Harvest Community Input sessions. And then on the 16th, I had a Curriculum and Student Support Committee meeting. And then in the evening, I attended the Vintage High School incoming freshman open house with my daughter, who will be starting there next year. So very surreal, very made me feel old. So, and that's my report.
Thank you very much. Trustee Chu?
So I did a couple of school visits, Stonebridge Charter and Redwood Middle School. Thank you, Principals Brown and Christofferson. I also attended the ACHS choir the day before Trustee Dooley, and it was wonderful to see all of the kids singing. Really, really enjoyed that, and engaged with a lot of community because that's my community. So they really appreciated all of the trustees actually being there, and they've told me as such after as well. I also listened in on the NCOE Charter Appeal meeting on the 15th. And also on replay, the Harvest Community Engagement Session number 3. And yesterday attended the Board Advisory Curriculum meeting as well.
Good evening, everybody. And just good to see the proximity of even our own fellow board members. Brings me back to obviously more than 2 years ago to where we were, but it feels pretty good to see the faces in the room. I too attended our board of trustee as members in these committees. 2 of those were the Finance and Audit Committee. Also looking forward to the the report and agenda, as well as we had the Facility Technology Committee as well. I too attended the choir concert. I took my mom with me. She loved it, and she recorded so many of that. It's out there in WhatsApp with all her friends, and just really, really enjoyed it, and as much, and I did. And it was good to see also Principal Lopez as well. I too attended a couple of community, not committee, but community events in the sense of the NCOE meeting in regards to the charter decision, and the continuance of community input for the Harvest property. So really great to see that. And I also spoke with Mike about the Bond Oversight Committee, and looking for volunteers to join that. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Trustee Water?
Well, I too. Wonderful as usual. And I went to the Technology and Facilities meeting. I went to the Napa County Office of Education meeting just this past Tuesday. Tuned in, listened to some of the Harvest meetings, made a bunch of phone calls, and I went down to the Board of Supervisors on March 8th to support our student board member in her presentation, which was superb. Thank you. Great job. And that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Water. Trustee Gracia?
Yes. So on the 8th, I had a great tour of Redwood Middle School with NCOE Trustee Biederman and NCOE Superintendent Bartnemko. And then on the 9th, I attended the Finance Committee meeting. The 10th, I attended the American Canyon High School choir performance. The kids did a great job. And then on the 15th, I attended Legislative Action Day, where I helped facilitate the group meeting with our local legislatures. We lobbied Assembly Member Aguilar Curry and State Senator Dodd around improving things for schools through the legislature action in Sacramento. And then also on the 15th, I attended the NCOE special meeting around Mayacamas Charter. And that's my board.
The last few weeks have been filled with community engagement and legislative engagement. I've had the opportunity to hear from our community, meet with many parents, listen to their thoughts, concerns, and their hopes for the students of NVUSD. It was my own mini version of a listen and learn tour. I too attended the sessions that Trustee Gracia just mentioned, and he did an excellent job of moderating those sessions. He truly did. I attended the Finance Committee meeting, and along with my colleagues, I too enjoyed the magic of the American Canyon High School Choir Program. Jamie Butler is amazing, and the students, each and every choir combination, they were outstanding. It was truly a fabulous evening. I too attended the NCOE Charter Appeal hearing, which I will address during second interim, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, trustees, for all of your reports. Good evening to the NVUSD community, again, Board of Trustees, and everyone that is tuning in tonight. And again, I want to thank Presidents Gail Young and Leslie Walder for being our first in-person participants at a board meeting after 2 years of our boardroom being closed. Sort of hard to believe, but we're grateful that you're the two that are present tonight. So thank you for being here. Coupled with this transition and change where our meetings are in hybrid format when it comes to public participation, I want to just reassure the public that despite the fact that the doors to the boardroom have been opened, we have a commitment to continue with providing online virtual Zoom access through the end of the year and are assessing our plans in the long term for moving forward. We know that the online participation, which was an innovation that emerged as a result of COVID, has definitely increased engagement around governance, and we think that that's a really good thing. I also want to illuminate a change again in the governance arena. Many of you may have noticed that our board agendas our board agenda looked slightly different for this March 17th board meeting. And the California School Boards Association has transitioned from their long-standing, almost 10-year platform, which was known as CSBA Agenda Online, to a new platform called Gamut. And all school districts that work with the California School Boards Association to prepare their public agendas were required and are being required in phases throughout the course of the next couple months to transition from Agenda Online onto Gamut. So we were in the transition group for the month of March in the state of California, along with several California districts. So if you notice that change, that is the new platform. That's why the agenda looked a little different. But you can see that we've structured our agenda exactly the same way that we did when on Agenda Online. It's not a perfect platform. If any of you follow our board meetings regularly, you may be feeling like you miss some of the features of the old platform. We feel the same way. Changing platforms is always a challenge. We had no choice in this matter. But please know that CSBA is in their first year of implementation with Gamut, and we are continuously providing feedback to CSBA. I know that they will go through some rounds of refinement to make sure that the platform is functioning at the highest of levels, as they perfect it and continue to move through its first year of implementation. I was so excited for a couple of school visits in the last couple of weeks since our last board meeting. It was an absolute pleasure to visit the Sheer PFC. Our PFC, I'm sorry, FRC, Family Resource Center, engaging with parents that attend the resource or use the resources at the Family Resource Center regularly. And I was grateful to our principal, Brian Gardner there, and the staff that work in the Family Resource Center, along with our parent liaison, Alejandra, that works there. It was a pleasure to engage with families at Sheer around critical issues impacting the educational lives of students NVUSD. And also I want to thank Principal Marianne Christofferson, also our new student, up and coming new student services director, but she did a great job as the principal of Redwood Middle School, hosting a visit there that was opened up to several community members. You heard some of the trustees talk about it. And we also leveraged it as an opportunity to share with some key community members about the great work that has been led by the Instructional Division, Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings and Director Monica Reddy, in collaboration with all of our middle school principals, all of the programmatic redesign work that's been conducted over the course of the last 9 months. So that was exciting to share that news with an audience. I also want to let everybody know that a press release is going to be going out. I think Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson mentioned it at the last board meeting, but we are launching a new middle school sports program for the 22-23 school year. Communication has gone out to NVUSD families vis-a-vis our bi-weekly family newsletter, and a press release will be going out describing the program. We're excited to share that news with the community. Again, it's been 4 years of very difficult decisions in order to make sure that our district is the right size. But when we tighten up and really leverage our resources intentionally and strategically, the great thing is that it provides an opportunity to continuously improve our current programs and potentially build new programs for our students that are continuing with us in the district. So we're so grateful that that opportunity has presented itself. And I want to thank the assistant superintendents for their work. This is a great example of cross collaboration across the divisions. Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson does oversee athletics and facilities, which is a huge part of launching a program like this, which will benefit all of our middle schools. He oversees the transportation. It's a complex puzzle to put together. And he collaborated closely with the Instructional Division, thinking about the interplay of this program with other programs that the Instructional Division is leading. So I want to thank them for that. And then our Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings for that work. And then our Assistant Superintendent Rob Mcgraw-Hill, who continues to make sure that as we make fiscal decisions that, we're leveraging our resources in a way that we can, again, invest in new programs like these. I also want to thank the Instructional Division for the incredible work that they did on Friday, March 11th. We hosted our second and last Professional Learning Day for the 21-22 school year. It was online, a lot of online workshops, but I was really, really grateful that we did have an in-person component. And given all of the transition that's happening at our middle schools, that's been an annual priority board focus for this year. And you see it as we report out, right? A lot of communication around that. We organized, the Instructional Division organized an afternoon dedicated to all middle school staff coming together to build a sense of belonging and connection and collaboration across all of our middle school staff. And this was hosted over at River School. And I want to thank Principal Kathy Adams. She was an amazing host. I want to thank Principal Alejandra Uribe, who will serve as the Unidos principal next year. They just both did an extraordinary job of kicking off the afternoon. And it was amazing to sit and have lunch with all of our middle school faculty, talk to people, connect, and see them all together eating and enjoying lunch and getting ready for their professional learning for the afternoon. So that was extraordinary. And lastly, I just want to thank the Napa County Office of Education Board for their decision on Tuesday night to deny the Maya Kamis charter petition. We know that there come challenges with complex decisions like that. I know that it was difficult. There was a lot of public engagement around it, but I want to thank them for recognizing the community impact that the charter petition would have had on the NVUSD educational community at large. With that, I'm going to pass it on to my assistant superintendents who are going to report out on the work in their respective divisions. We're going to start out tonight with Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings, who oversees the Instructional Services Division.
Thank you so much, Dr. Massetti. Good evening, President Jankowicz, Board Trustees, Student Representative Bitt, Dr. Massetti, and the NVUSD community. Our Professional Learning Day, Leaning into Learning 2.0 on March 11th provided all of our instructional team a day full of learning and connection. Site teams gathered in the morning for a community welcome before attending 3 virtual sessions and then finished out the day with site collaborative work. In reviewing the feedback, the sessions were overwhelmingly received positive ratings by the participants in terms of relevance and usefulness in their work. I had the pleasure of attending a session presented by Dr. Deanna Vitas, one of our own school psychologists, who talked about her research on racialized trauma and how to support our students who may have experienced that trauma. She did an excellent job. I also want to share that our elementary summer programs are now open for registration. We are poised to serve up to 2,800 students in our summer programs supported by the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program grant. This funding is for students in TK through 6th grade. Though we are partnering with outside organizations such as Boys and Girls Club, Napa County Office of Education, and EDMO, registration for our summer programs will be centralized and handled by NVUSD staff to streamline the process for families. Our program will run for 6 weeks and will be free of cost. We are giving priority registration to families who are either free and reduced lunch eligible, English learners, or foster and homeless youth. All remaining seats will be open to other students. So far that we already have 400 students who have completed the registration process. So we're excited, and we just launched it last week. In addition to our NVUSD elementary summer program, EDMO will offer a fee-based program at Canyon Oaks and West Park for 4 weeks this summer, and it will be at reduced cost to NVUSD families. We look forward to providing our students, our elementary students, with another amazing summer experience filled with learning and exploration. And I will share at our next board meeting around all of the programming that's happening at the middle and high school level. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings. Next, we'll have Assistant Superintendent Rob Mcgraw-Hill, who oversees the Business Services Division.
Good evening. I will forgo my report tonight, as I will be providing a comprehensive update about our budget when I present the second interim report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mcgraw-Hill. Next, we'll have Assistant Superintendent Dana Page, who oversees the Human Resources Division.
Good evening, President Jankowicz, Board of Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and Student Board Representative Bitt. You've already heard a lot about our recent successful Professional Development Day, but I'd just like to add a shout out for the increase in opportunities for our classified staff to participate as well. In addition to the trainings that were provided by the Maintenance, Operations, and Food Services Management team specific for their staff, we also increased the offerings for site clerical, instructional support staff, and bus drivers and campus supervisors, including Google Apps, Aries query tips, preventing slips, trips, and falls, proper ergonomics, library tools, SEL, suicide prevention, Parent Square communication tools, and escape tips, which was taught by HR's very own Ellie Pena-Tamayo, along with Veronica Chamblis from Business Services, and we're super proud of them. Since the PD days started, we set a goal to include all employees in every professional development day. And since then, we've steadily increased relevant classes and attendance of classified employees. I'm grateful for the instructors who offered their talents and happy to see an almost 60% increase in classified attendance. I'd like to add that we were also able to include substitute teachers in this professional development day in much greater numbers. So I think we're well on our way to supporting the professional development consistently across the district among all employees in order to better support our students. And finally, I'd just like to share with you our latest staff spotlight, which features Julian Rivera, who is an NVUSD alum, and now he holds the lead clerical position at the American Canyon Middle School office. And I actually remember Julian when he went to Pueblo Vista when I taught there. He was a great kid, and it's been a pleasure to watch his career unfold here as an adult. Julian loves working with his team at ACMS. He's very funny, and I love the fact that the TV character he'd most like to meet is Kermit the Frog. So read more fun facts about Julian in the staff newsletter and online. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Page. And next and our last report from the executive team is from Assistant Superintendent Mr. Mike Pearson, who oversees the Operational Services Division. He's in the boardroom here with us tonight, and I want to thank him for that.
Good evening, President Jankowicz, NBC Board of Education Trustees, Dr. Massetti, Student Board Representative Emily BIT, who I finally get to see in person for the first time, and members of the NVUSD community. Thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update from operational services. I wanted to briefly comment too that the recent NVUSD Professional Development Day on March 11th provided several employee groups in operational services the time to improve his or her skills, along with an opportunity to collaborate between different departments. And the operational services team very much appreciates being part of the NVUSD staff development days, which allows for members to learn new skills and or improve and update their expertise. In food service, I'd like to share that NOSH had its second highest monthly revenue for the 21-22 school year. In the month of February, food service revenue for providing breakfast and lunch to NVUSD students exceeded $715,000. I'd like to thank Director of Food Service, Kristen Teakill, and the entire food service department for their leadership ensuring the demand for meals is met by the cafe workers and employees. Lastly, a brief update on athletics. As was shared earlier and at previous board meetings, NVUSD will be reinstating middle school sports for the 22-23 school year as part of the middle school redesign work. Since approximately 2007, middle school students in NVUSD have not been able to compete against other NVUSD schools in a league format organized by NVUSD staff. In the very near future, schedules will be developed for cross country, girls volleyball, co-ed soccer, girls and boys basketball, badminton, and track and field. We're looking very much forward to seeing middle school student athletes represent their respective middle school next year. And finally, I'd like to recognize two high school teams, which just both happen to be from Vintage High School. The boys soccer team, coached by Javier Covarrubias and Alex Feliciano, recently won the first Division IV CIF Northern California boys soccer title. This is a big deal. Congratulations to the Vintage High boys soccer team. And then additionally, the girls wrestling team led by head coach Michael Watanabe was recently named the CIF California Army National Guard Team of the Month for the entire state of California. Teams are recognized monthly for their achievement on the field, in the classroom, and in their communities. And specifically, the girls wrestling team was selected for their recent CIF North Coast Section wrestling title. And in their application, they were recognized for their art of brutal self-honesty while maintaining unwavering competence. Congratulations to the ladies. This concludes my report for tonight.
Do you want to sneak in a Go Crushers there?
Okay, go Crushers.
Per our amendment motion, we will now address information item M1E. This is the last time we will have this specific information item based on current conditions on our agenda. Per the governor's order after March 11th, 2022, the universal masking requirement for K-12 and childcare settings was terminated. CDPH strongly recommends that individuals in these settings continue to mask in indoor settings. Do we have any public comment in this room? We do not. So Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do. First speaker are the initials CC. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can.
Okay, so I have not spoken out in this meeting before, and so you should know that there are many more like me that have silently been observing with disapproval of the board's handling of COVID-related matters. We are not a small fringe minority. Parents who want free will to choose medical interventions and treatment for their children see your dismissal of those that speak out against mask and vaccine mandates as completely biased and unrepresentative. Rights have been violated, and you seemingly rather put these children's mental and physical health in jeopardy rather than protecting them and their liberties simply because of money you have received. Approximately 60% of children 5 to 11 in Napa County are unvaccinated. 60% is a pretty significant number, I would say. And I would bet that these parents all have the same concerns of safety or necessity when it does not stop transmission, and the mortality rate is essentially zero. Any concerns regarding safety were recently validated by the court-ordered release of the Pfizer documents, which contain 9 pages of over 1,200 known side effects found in their trials. So again, I'd like to emphasize 60%. If the vaccine is put on the schedule, if there is another mask mandate, enrollment will diminish and you will lose funding and teachers will lose their jobs. It is easy for you to throw up your hands and point to some other boogeyman to blame, claiming it is law when it is not, meanwhile taking money as a condition you carry out policies that actually violate civil code. It is lazy and morally bankrupt. So I ask you an honest question. Is your reluctance to stand for children's medical freedom, whether it be mask choice or against the vaccines on the school schedule, representative of your personal, ethical, and moral values? Or in all the confusion and groupthink pressure over the last 2 years, did your moral compass get skewed? If so, I'd like to say it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. From history, we have learned that just because a governing body or individual pushes for an action does not make that action right or just. It is up to the people to call out injustices and demand their civil liberties. As the representatives of the children of our community, it is your duty to represent all as fairly and justly as possible. And that would be taking a stance for all to make their own health decisions. There's a great deal of organizations such as PERC and Children's Health Defense advocating for choice and a wealth of legal knowledge and experience. I encourage you all to take a stand for choice, educate yourselves, and connect with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Mr. Michaels.
Yes, next speaker is initials DJ. Go ahead, please.
So I'm not going to say that nearly as eloquently as she just spoke, but let me help you connect the dots here. If 871 passes and you guys, it is added to the vaccine mandate, and I understand you say, oh, it's the state, I can't do anything. You will be hosed. You will have so many students leave the district that your money problems that you've faced up until now will be minuscule. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next comment, please.
Yes, next speaker is El Grega. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm here. On February 27, 30 students from Vintage High School walked off campus to protest mask mandates. Kids made the paper that day. A week later, the kids made the news after they had images of being segregated against in the cold outdoors, unable to participate, though wanting to be in class, go viral and pick up the attention of NBC Bay Area. Superintendent Machete justified, we know that it may have caused discomfort to kick kids out of the classroom, but it was our response in the moment, again, to be able to provide access to education. Access to education for whom? That week, the principal of Vintage High School put hands on a student who tried to enter a classroom unmasked. When he asked her to remove her hands from him, and told her she couldn't touch him, she assured him that she could. Why is this okay? In the weeks to follow, these children would not only be bullied by their teachers, principals, and other students. They would be marked absent, even while in attendance, have their ability to play sports, participate in games, tests, and even taken from them. I have video and audio of recording of that same principal at Vintage High School, chastising, teasing, threatening kids for their choice, speaking to them as if they were diseased, contagious, and sick, not human. What they are is healthy, free, non-threatening, kind, and courageous children who have jobs, straight A's, and provide accomplishments in many sports. They had been experiencing what I can only describe as discrimination, segregation, and punishment for invoking their rights. They have seen the whole country, and many other countries, our governor, local government, you guys, teachers and figures of authority gallivant without masks or just wear whatever the hell over their faces, whether it be a nice magenta embroidered cotton poly mask or a gator with a side of Mountain Dew. Kids are smart. They know it's a joke. We asked the board for a resolution with over 100 signatures, concerned community members, that we got in about 48 hours. We are formally requesting a resolution for mask choice put on the board's agenda as soon as possible, but no later than regularly scheduled meeting of the board on 3/17 is what I wrote 2 weeks ago. I got a bunch of different words from Robin Jankowitz, president of the board. The opening sentence was, I recognize the tremendous amount of work you have demonstrated with your petition and the creation of a resolution. It goes on, and I'll email this to you, but the tone was condescending. You acted as if you spoke for the whole board. So if you do, I need to see minutes from that because we know you can't do that. The other part about this is asking to be included is not asking for special treatment. We do not want to have COVID-19 health and mask and vaccine items at the end of meetings anymore. It is exclusive. It is not inclusive. That's all we're asking is fair treatment for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels, do we have any additional speakers?
Yes, we do. Pam Ademic, go ahead, please.
Hey, yeah, this is Pam. I'm just calling in because, wow, the gals and the guys that have called before were amazing. And I want to reiterate exactly, I feel the same way. And I would like you guys to go ahead and put a resolution out for the students, because I noticed when your board chairs went to their fundraisers, they made a choice during Omicron, like it was the big surge, and they made a choice to not wear a mask. They made a choice to not follow the health department guidelines. So if you could please just give the children a choice and the parents a choice to mask or to vax, because we noticed that Robin and Alba both made the choice to not wear a mask when they were at a fundraiser, at the bowling alley, and at up at the CIA. So that's all we ask. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much. Do we have any additional speakers?
Yes, the next speaker is Jacqueline. Go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Clearly.
Oh, sorry. I'm at a baseball game that's a little bit windy. But what I would like to say is that the speaker that talked about this not being a fringe minority, even though you've heard my voice month after month, I'm sitting in a bleacher full of parents who feel the exact same way that we do. Our children will not be masked again. We're done. We will never put masks on our kids again. And if this vaccine passes for kids to go to school, we will pull our children. And like the caller said, it's not a fringe minority. Our entire bleacher set feels the same way. The bleachers on the other side feel the same way as well. So we will not do this anymore. I have to help the kids. Sorry, I'm a nurse and they're hurt. So I am gonna get off here. No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah.
Mr. Michaels?
There's no further public comment.
Thank you very much. We will move now on to approval of the consent. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to do the rest of the board reports. I'm sorry, I'm out of order. Special Education Community Advisory Committee.
We have not met.
City of American Canyon.
We also have not met.
City of Napa.
We have
Bill?
It's been approximately 14 months since last we met, but we are making good use of the property as storage.
Thank you. Now we will move to approval of the consent agenda. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call vote unless discussion of item or items is requested by the board members.
President Jankowicz.
Yes.
I need to have item J3A pulled. I have a conflict.
Not a problem. I appreciate you letting me know. Let's take a vote on the balance of the agenda.
Move to approve the rest of the consent items.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Water. Vera, may I please have a roll call vote?
Yes. Student Board Member Bid,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, for item J3A, I have a conflict. My spouse is on one of the items before the board tonight, and under our board policy or board bylaw 9270, as well as or pursuant to, Education Code 35107 and the Political Reform Act. Because the action may have an impact on my family and my financial interests, I need to recuse myself. So I will be stepping out and the board can take whatever action they take.
Thank you very much, Trustee Dooley. We'll give you a moment. Okay. May I please get a motion on J3A?
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Chu. Vera, may I please have a roll call vote?
Yes, Student Board Member Bit,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz, Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu.
Aye.
Thank you.
Vera, would you please get Trustee Dooley? Thank you. Thank you. We are now moving on to presentations and discussion items. We're going to begin this evening with business services, second interim 2021-22 presentation. AB 2861 requires the Napa Valley Unified School District to submit interim fiscal reports. The second interim report reflects budget adjustments and actual receipt of revenue and district expenditures through January 31st. Attached are the summary state SACS reports for the general fund, charter schools, adult ed, and other funds. Assistant Superintendent Mangwala, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you for the wonderful technical introduction. I appreciate that. Mr. Michaels, can you please pull up the slideshow? Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So I'd like to kind of start with the economic outlook. So usually with these presentations, I like to start kind of big picture and then narrow down. And so we've been talking about the inflation and supply chain issues for some time now, and it's really starting to hit. So again, inflation and supply chain issues are causing cost increases. Inflation is the highest it's been since the 1980s. The Great Resignation is also causing employee shortages, wage pressures to continue to increase. Districts will need to plan for substantial wage increases for their employees. And the invasion of Ukraine and economic sanctions will likely cause additional supply chain and cost increases. So we see this in the cost of gasoline. We see it in swings in the stock market. We know that what this will do based on history, that what will happen is California's budget will be hit by this. So it does take a little bit of time. We could potentially even see something in the final budget that goes to the governor. So inflation is really big. We did see the first increase, I want to say in 4 to 5 years, of actually the federal funds rates of 0.25%. Had it not been for the invasion of Ukraine, it probably would have been closer to 0.5%. And so again, when we look back in history and we look and see what happens due to interest rate increases, we know stock market returns over the next couple of years will be lower, and there will be a great deal of uncertainty. Next slide, please. Verge of fiscal insolvency. So going back to 15-16, the district was on the verge of bankruptcy. This was caused by overspending, not right sizing the district in response to years of declining enrollment. Going back to 2014, the district was spending down the reserves and deficit spending. Under new leadership, the district made a series of very difficult decisions to ensure that we'd be financially viable in response to very substantial declining enrollment and dramatic increases to pension costs. Next slide, please. So the county office did recognize this. So the county office, again, they do provide fiscal oversight for us. And so they approve our budget, our update to the budget, which is the first interim, the second interim. And then when they have a concern, they give you a letter. It's called a letter of ongoing concern. So it's not quite not approving our budget or a qualified or a negative, but they have a concern. So NCOE was very concerned about the district's finances. They were so concerned, again, they wrote a letter to NVUSD trustees and the superintendent of April of 2019, The letter expressed concern that the district was at the risk of fiscal insolvency due to not responding to declining enrollment. And so we all know, based on some of the previous presentations, that declining enrollment means reduced revenues. So NCOE recommended that we do a number of things, including closing small schools, charging charters fair costs, eliminating seventh period, maximizing class sizes via our funding formula, and reducing certificated and classified positions. We've laid off literally over 100 certificated employees. Next slide, please. So we made some very tough decisions. The pain was felt across the district. We followed the recommendations by NCOE, and we've turned around our financial outlook under the things that are under our control, right? So we still have declining enrollment. We've done a lot of the very hard work around right-sizing the district. We still have a lot of work to do, but we've done a lot of that hard work already. And again, pain is felt by all. We charge our charters through cost. After this change, both River and NVLA closed its charters due to financial insolvency and became traditional district schools. We closed Yountville and Mount George elementary schools, eliminated seventh period, and maximized class sizes. Again, we laid off over 100 teachers. Again, this is very painful across the community. Next slide. So as a part of middle school redesign, we did redesign our middle schools. We closed Harvest Middle School, and we moved the dual language immersion program from Harvest to River Middle School. This change in program increased enrollment at River, which has been renamed UNIDOS, to increase from 429 students to 620. And this move also moved the program that served the most needy students to our community, to a new state-of-the-art facility. Next slide. So in response to this closure of the River program, a group of parents did submit a charter petition, which the district denied due to very specific findings, including community impact. They appealed to the county office. And again, this presentation, I probably should have started with this, was uploaded prior to the vote, which occurred on March 15th, so just Tuesday. So as we kind of go through, I'll update a little bit, but again, some of this information is dated. We do know that they did vote to deny the charter on March 15th. But some of these other things are still pertinent. Again, they did not make a recommendation to their board regarding the charter. This caused a great deal of uncertainty for the district's budget, which you'll see reflected in the presentation here tonight. And again, their review implies that outside of community impact, the charter petition should be approved and meets all legal requirements based on their evaluation, which we do not agree with strongly. Next slide. So if the charter was approved, we know it would have a negative impact on the entire community. The NCOE board did concur with that. And we do appreciate the time that the board took to evaluate that and discuss and come to the same conclusion that there would be a negative community impact of almost $1.6 million in the first year and $13 million over 5. The district will again, in response, the district will need to close additional programs, services, and so forth. And again, what we'll have to do is come budget adoption, what you'll see from me is you will see a revised budget, right? So the next opportunity for the school district to revise their budget would be at budget adoption. So when it comes to adopting a budget or updating a budget, you would typically, if something negative happened, like something that was really bad, we would potentially do a third interim, like if it was something that was critical. But in our case, our financial outlook will improve because the charter was not approved. So there's no need to do anything in between now and budget adoption. Next slide. So if the charter had been approved, there would have been a reduction of existing and elimination of proposed programs. Even net of expenditure reductions as a result of serving less students, programs would have needed to be cut. Supplemental programs such as counselors, intervention teachers, and electives would have needed to be reduced. And also some of the planned programs that you heard tonight, such as middle school sports and additional music and physical education for elementary schools. Next slide. So, and again, if the charter were approved, it would have been a permanent impact on the community. This could have led to fiscal insolvency for the district. It certainly would have increased the timeline based on declining enrollment too. Again, if the county had ignored it, this would have happened. And again, we do appreciate that the county office took the time and effort to really look down and understand the community impact. Next slide, please. This slide kind of again goes over their fiduciary responsibility, and again, so this is a kind of a dated slide, but again, what does it mean? It means that the county office, ultimately their number one consideration is the continued fiscal solvency of the school district, which is why the language was added to AB 1505, which is the law that is used to oversee the evaluation of a charter petition. Next slide. So again, this is the impact. This impact includes the information we know now. So the information we know now, again, let me take that back. It includes the economic information we know now, and does assume the charter. So again, you will see a revision of this at budget adoption, but you can see we have some very significant deficit spending in year 2. So we have some hard work to do between now and the end of the year to try and close that gap. One of the commitments that we've had as a district is that as we look in the out years, the further you get out, it's really hard to kind of get that perfect really. But when we adopt a budget, what we want to try and always do is adopt a balanced budget as we go into that year 2. Next slide. So this is what the history of our reserves. Again, you can see that we've been doing lots of hard work. We were on the verge of bankruptcy. This slide starts with 2016-17 sitting at 3.69%. And then you could see that hard work kind of paying off, where you saw our reserves start to go up and just creep up. And you can see it's about 1%. And then suddenly there's this jump. And so we know that from operating in the pandemic, that it was less expensive in the pandemic. Again, operating a school district remotely is less expensive than doing it in person. And there's lots of one-time money kind of running through the system. All school districts across the state, on average, did increase their reserves. Their reserves actually increased to above 20%. So you can see we're kind of behind that level. Those reserves will get spent down as we continue to add programs for our students as we completely come out of COVID. So you will see a spend down of that. And to be honest, there will be years, as much as we try not to, but there will be years where we're going to have deficit spending because we know that we need to add additional services for students. Again, we're going to do our best not to, but that will potentially happen in the future. Next slide. These are our enrollment projections. And so again, you can see the acceleration of the declining enrollment around the time of COVID. So you can see, going back to 16-17, almost 18,000 students. But then when you go to our COVID years, 2019-20, we're sitting at 17,375. Right now, we're again in the beginning of the year, we were 16,516. We do anticipate when we start the year, we will definitely be below 16,000 students. So almost 2,000 students going back to 16-17. The Napa Valley Unified, we have some of the strongest declining enrollment in the state. Next slide. So what are the assumptions? So again, the approval of the charter is baked in. When we go through budget adoption, we will fix that. We do have additional kinder students already included in our enrollment projections. I know there's been questions about that, but we did work with our demographer very early on to get this assumption moved in there. There's always going to be some question about what the actual numbers are. Right now, we are running significantly behind. We know that TK and K typically enrolls late. But if you just look at it from a number standpoint, we're at least 400 lower than projection in TK and K. So again, we're watching that number very closely. Again, we anticipate that we'll get close to the projection, but there's nothing to indicate that we'll be higher than the projection at this point in time. Again, we'll watch that very closely, but we're still far behind. We assume that there's a funded COLA of 5.33%, 3.61, and 3.64. This is what's included in the local control funding formula calculator. There's discussion about something in terms of a potential adjustment for an average enrollment in the LCFF calculator, but that tool is not available yet. And again, there's lots of discussions at the state, and it's simply because enrollment decline is affecting everybody now. So in the past, it was just affecting us, so there wasn't likely to be legislative action. But as a result of COVID and declining enrollment is impacting lots of people across California, or I should say lots of school districts. So there is language, but there's no way to determine what the actual increase will be at this point in time. So again, we're watching this closely. We are advocating for this very strongly, and we continue to write letters to support an increase in base funding and something to do with declining enrollment. We'll continue to need to make reductions in certificated and classified positions due to declining enrollment. Again, where we're kind of at with that right now is we're using staffing formulas as much as we can. You know, we've kind of caught up with the big layoffs that were necessary for certificated and classified positions. Hopefully we'll kind of get to a position where we don't have to go through formal layoffs, but positions are still reduced. So I do want to provide clarity around that. So in years when you do really large layoffs, you'll see Ms. Page will bring something to the board to actually lay people off. Another way to do that, and we typically do that when we have very, very large numbers, right? So, but what we're anticipating is that people are leaving the district, employees are leaving the district as they leave. We don't necessarily fill those positions right away. That puts us into a position where we don't have to go through the formal layoff, but we're still reducing positions. So I want to make sure the message is clear. We still have to reduce certificated and classified positions, but it's just not at the level that we need to necessarily go through the formal layoff process. Next slide, please. So what are our recommendations? Next step, most importantly, approve the positive certification for second interim. Declining enrollment will continue to have a negative impact on our revenues for the foreseeable future. Both certificated and classified cuts will need to occur every year as long as we have declining enrollment. And again, we still anticipate that we'll have declining enrollment even with the new TK students. We may need to continue to look at school closure at the elementary school level, especially. Again, we're watching our numbers very closely. But we also understand the impact of the community. We don't want to close schools unless we absolutely have to, but we're watching that very closely. The other thing that we need to do, I know that as a board priority, you've given staff the directive to look closely at some of our contracts. And so we are in the process of reviewing contracts with our largest vendors paid from the general fund and special education, right? So we don't look at contracts paid for from the bond fund, for example, because that does not impact our operating budget. And you can have very large swings due to projects, right? So it's not a good indication of what ongoing costs are. The other thing that we can look at really closely, again, is special education. So because we know that for special education, we do not cover the entire cost of special education. The contribution from the general fund to special education is very substantial. It's above $20 million. So every cost in special education, especially contracts, we need to look at that very closely. If we can provide better services with the cost savings, then we should consider doing this service ourselves. We also have a special education analysis that will be brought to the board at a future meeting to provide the board with the necessary data to make some decisions and recommendations about special education contracts and some of the services in the service model that we use internally, right? So it's not just contracts. We need to look very closely at our special education our special education budget as a part of this analysis. Next slide. I think that's it. Mr. Michaels?
Yeah, I believe that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you so much. So any questions?
Very much. Rob, thank you very much. Trustees, does Trustee Chu?
So I wanted to get some clarification. In the state of California, kindergarten and TK are not required. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so do we see like an average or some sort of percentage of the kindergartners or TKs that we're expecting to enroll? Like, is it usually less than first grade? Like when we enroll first graders, do we see any increase at all, or do they all just take advantage?
Yes. Yes, I have to double check the exact number for you. I'll do that while I answer some of the other questions. I'll look it up on my computer really quick. But typically, yes. So first grade is a little slightly higher than kinder, and even at full enrollment at TK, which will happen over 3 years, we don't anticipate that it will reach the full size of kinder right away. It will definitely take time. Eventually, it could be as big as kinder, but there's other, obviously parents have other choices and other things, and this is something new. It will take some time to get to full enrollment there.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, so this report is completely unacceptable. Any budget that returns the district to a 3% reserve is not acceptable. I will not approve such a budget if this doesn't change in a significant way by the time we get to budget adoption. Under no circumstances am I willing to return to the bad old days of budgets with deficit spending and non-existent reserves. I have spent significant time in the past week lobbying our legislators in Sacramento to try and improve our district finances. I'm actively attempting to influence decision makers at the state level in order to ensure that the amount of money allocated to us by Sacramento is as high as possible. I appreciate the help that was delivered to our budget by NCOE. I want to take a moment to thank NCOE, their board, their trustees, and their superintendent for their assistance in helping us to remain financially solvent by denying the MCMS charter school petition on Tuesday night. NCOE made the right decision as they saw the negative community impact that approval of the charter would have had. They denied the charter school under the theory that current conditions are not right for it, as current approval would be too detrimental to the community. I also want to thank all those who showed up on the microphone at public comment at the NCOE board meeting to help demonstrate the community impact. NCOE did what was right for the community and what was right for the financial solvency of their largest district. The decision to deny should make a significant positive impact on the budget by the time it returns at budget adoption. While NCOE's action will definitely help, this decision alone will not be enough to fix the budget deficit. We must continue to cut this budget back and right-size the district. The work we are doing with SPED to more efficiently deliver services and the work we have done to trim staff is not sufficient to close the size of the deficit we are talking about, even with the MCMS charter being denied. Even if we close more small elementary schools, we will not achieve sufficient cost savings through that action alone in order to close our budget deficit. Mr. Mcgraw, would you agree with my assessment that making SPED more efficient and reducing our workforce and closing more small elementary schools would be insufficient by itself to close a projected $25 million budget deficit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing then that we can't close our budget deficit on those actions alone, what are some areas that we can look at for cuts?
Well, again, one of the areas that you've directed us to look at, and we've started to look at, again, we're looking at special education. We know we have a report coming there, but also our contracts. So I know that we do need to look at our contracts very closely and kind of determine, again, what services we can do better ourselves and see if there's a potential cost savings. So that is an area that we need to look at.
What are some of our biggest contracts and who's holding those contracts?
Well, some of the biggest contracts we have are for special education, utilities. Again, if you capture all of your kind of utilities and you put it in one bucket, it's pretty typical for a school district to spend a lot on utilities. So electricity, gas, water, those type of things with a variety of vendors. And so our biggest one is with the county office right now for the special education preschool.
So it's clear then from tonight's presentation that our SPED offerings becoming more efficient, reducing our staffing, and even closing some small elementary schools will not be then sufficient to close the funding gap. Clearly, we must examine all our contracts, including those with NCOE, and determine which, if any, are no longer serving us well. I would like staff and the superintendent to review these contracts and report back to our board at our April meeting with a recommendation about which ones we need to consider taking action upon. If there are any savings to be had, we must seriously consider exploring those savings. I would like the April report to detail the amount of money that we can potentially save from each contract. I am reminded of the parents who came to the microphone during our last round of elementary school closures who begged for us to find other savings. Parents urged us to try and find cuts anywhere else but the closure of their elementary school. Knowing that we will likely be faced with another round of elementary school closures, it is our duty to pursue these savings in the hopes that we can get by with cutting only 2 small elementary schools instead of potentially being forced to cut 4 of them. I want to be able to look the parents in the eye the next round of potential elementary school closure and to be able to assure them that we have done everything possible to minimize the number of schools being cut. We must leave no stone unturned in our quest to remain fiscally solvent.
Thank you, Trustee.
Thank you for the direction.
Mr.
Staff wants to look at it.
Based on, and I just want to, if we want to assess the board good with that request in terms of bringing forth an analysis of the largest scale contracts that we have for, again, that would be an April 21st board meeting. April 7th is celebrating schools, so there's no business on April 7th.
Can we run through, please?
Yes, I agree with that.
I agree as well.
It's been the work that we've started 4 or 5 years ago, right? It's that continuation.
Continuation there.
It's a continuation. I think as we've done in the past, I take pride also of our superintendent, our team and the board of us being very mindful of our community and strategic about it, and that it is a multitude of items, not just one thing, it's all of it. So I just had that moment of reflection, right? That it's been quite a journey, and in the community and how they understand that is important to us as well, because it is very complex, and it's a process. And so, but I do, I do pride myself, and well, I feel a sense of that we have done the right thing, and all the hard decisions that we've made, and even the one that ended up with an outcome that we even had voted on the charter petition. So I think we continue to make the right work, and we've been doing that. So we just have to be very mindful of of also our decisions and the impact, which we have been. So things don't change overnight, for sure.
As Elba said, it's a constellation of many things, but I am interested in those contracts.
I would like to acknowledge the hard work that has gone into second interim. I would like to thank Assistant Superintendent Mcgraw-Hill and his team for the difficult task of assessing the multiple financial triggers that influenced our financial projections. I would like to thank the Napa County Office of Education Board of Trustees. I commend them for their thoughtful discussion and their willingness at all 3 meetings to welcome all public comment. It is difficult work, and I want to acknowledge their efforts and thank them for their support of our 16,681 students. It will be impactful. Second interim was difficult to digest, especially due to the fact that we have been doing the hard work needed to remain solvent and invest in additional resources and programming on behalf of our students. The reality, as outlined in second interim, changed that trajectory. We cannot allow for this magnitude of deficit spending. We have to address this issue by assessing where we can cut expenses with the least amount of impact on our students. Budget reductions have once again become a non-negotiable. We must remain fiscally responsible, consistent in our approach, and purposeful in our execution. For the last 4 years, we have made extremely difficult decisions, but always with our students front of mind. I recall when Dr. Musetti executed the first round of major budget cuts early in her superintendency. to eliminate almost 600,000 in contracts, a strategy we must reassume. We have closed schools, redesigned schools, are reviewing the SPED FCMAT to make necessary changes, have modified master schedules, and responsibly charged charters market rates that reflect current pricing models. One-time monies are just that. They have restrictions and do not fix long-term financial shortfalls. Responsible governance requires us to assess our current contracts and MOUs for efficiency, scale, and impact. I understand we need to maintain school closures as a strategy, but contract elimination, renegotiation, or providing in-house services when possible is a strategy that needs to be considered with immediate urgency. It is in the district's best interest to internally manage assets when applicable, to regain financial stability, cut costs, and create in-house staffing efficiency. This is not optional. We have no choice but to continue to make difficult decisions in order to balance the budget, reduce expenditures, determine efficient expenditures of finite financial resources, and maintain solvency as we continue to combat declining enrollment, inflation, increasing SPED costs, and increasing pension costs. Hard work needs to be done before budget adoption. We cannot approve a budget that brings our cash reserve back to hovering around 3% and puts us in state receivership levels in 2025 with reserve levels dipping well below 3%. We cannot approve a budget with deficit spending starting in 2022 and rising through year 2 and year 3. And in case anyone did not catch some of the projections based on current criteria, the year 3 deficit spending number was over $25 million. Goal 4, tactical, proactive, and efficient management. The board, in collaboration with the district, agrees on the work as outlined in the strategic plan. We have focused on programming, facilities management, community engagement with our city partners, and resource allocation. But alignment and allocation of resources have to align with our priorities and goals and with our budget adoption. We as a board will continue to prioritize financial solvency. Our commitment continues to be our students. Until public policy intersects with enrollment realities, school budgeting will remain a challenging and at times nearly impossible process. We must dramatically reduce expenses and review cost-cutting opportunities before budget adoption, as this budget, as it stands, cannot be approved. Trustee Dooley, Trustee Chu.
Thank you. I agree with everything that's been said. I won't repeat it. What I do want to say is kind of provide context for the cuts that need to be made. It's not cuts for the sake of cuts. It's not cutting things to fit the numbers that we want to see. It's cutting things that are inefficient or looking into areas where we are not providing the value of services that we at the standard that we want to hold ourselves to for a cost that's reasonable. The goal is not purely financial. The goal is to be able to provide services to the students of the district, to provide fair compensation to our employees, to provide the benefits that they deserve within a budget that is workable and that doesn't result in what we're seeing with this with the projections here. So, you know, we really need to look at these contracts. We need to look at areas where we can find those inefficiencies and but we need to do that because we want to provide things like middle school athletics. We want to provide things like summer programs for students. That's the point. And so, you know, we've heard a lot in the context of a lot of this hard work about, you know, all the cuts that are being made and all of the harm that that's causing the community. But the point of all of the work we've done is to provide services to students. And we are seeing those services now because of the hard work that we've done. And so when we talk about cuts and we talk about the difficulty of this budget outlook, we need to remember that the point of that, the numbers, the expenses, the, all of that represents the work that we are doing for for the district. And so that's an important context that I think, when we do look at these difficult numbers and difficult decisions, that we're keeping in mind the purpose for making cuts is not to reach some, it's not a paper goal. So.
That was very well articulated. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And if I could get back to Trustee Chu's question, she had a question earlier that I couldn't answer about the cohort size. So, can you hear me?
Can.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So then, in terms of where we sit right now, the kinder cohort and the first grade cohort, they're actually pretty close. I stand a little bit corrected. They're only about 30 students different, but remember that's also a function of birth rates too. So it's not just, is it about the same size? So there's a little bit more than that. So if I look at our latest projections, our kinder cohort size is actually projected to go down due to birth rates. Again, right now we're sitting at about 1,000. By 26-27, it's projected to go down to about 950. Even in 26-27, we are not anticipating matching enrollment in TK. In TK, the most we're projecting right now would be 622. So about 2/3 of the kinder enrollment.
Thank you. I think that really highlights where that decline comes in. And it's just unfortunate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mangwala.
Thank you.
We are going to take a brief 5-minute break. Thank you all very much. We'll see you at about 8:50. We'll do public comment. I apologize. We don't have any public comment in the room. Do we have public comment on Zoom?
Yes, we do. First speaker is DJ. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you for allowing that public comment. I really appreciate that because I have a lot to say. So what I'm hearing from that report is that NVUSD is too big to fail. You guys cannot handle alternatives that might challenge your fiscal irresponsibility. And just let me connect the dots again, that the place where you're at is a repercussion of the choices you guys have made, of your governance, the state's governments. The way you've handled the COVID situation has driven people out of state because they're sick of dealing with it. So they're saying, we're going to take our money, our tax dollars, away from the district. That will happen if Pan and Newsom don't get the message that you can't do this. You can't threaten people with COVID and hype it up so much. And then at the same time say, oh, we want our economy, we want things to go well. You can't do that. It's not going to work. You guys are hosed. And what you're going to do is you're going to follow LA's district, their model of just shutting down schools, Oakland's model of shutting down schools. It's the industry standard because you can shut it down and then you'll just go distance learning. Oh, it's not safe. We'll just have distance learners. You have one teacher, 500 students, not even that, not one teacher. You can just have Google teach our kids, give them a computer, put a screen in front of them and just let them learn on the computer. You guys will collect your revenue and you don't even have to pay for schools. It'd be great. That's not how kids learn. You guys, I don't know how to connect these dots any clearer for you. You just don't really get it. And you can't handle these alternatives because they will do a much better job than you are doing. You guys are too big to fail. You can't pass another bond. I'm sure your consultants have told you that because the taxpayers will not pay for it. They've cut you off. The way you've irresponsibly spent the last bond measure is ridiculous. You lied through your teeth. You, previous regime, lied through your teeth on how that money was going to be spent. And you know what? It's just disappointing. It is so disappointing that we can't have a school district that actually values teaching kids. It's not hard, guys. You want to cut money from the budget? You want to really save money? cut admin. It's all you have to do. They don't make an impact on the kids. Teachers make an impact on the kids. You don't seem to understand it. Look at admin, cut admin, not hard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Michaels, do we have additional public comment?
We do not. There is no more public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now take a 5-minute break. We will see you guys back in Thank you all for your patience. We will now resume presentations and discussions, and we will start with instructional services 2A, introduction of core instructional material adoption for high schools. The NVUSD Curriculum Council recommends the adoption of the following core instructional materials for world languages: Signing Naturally for Intro to American Sign Language, American Sign Language, P American Sign Language 2, and new course H American Sign Language. The aforementioned core instructional materials support students with learning the state standards for world languages with an emphasis on communication, culture awareness, and connection. Additionally, the core resources provide responsive and engaging pedagogy in alignment with NVUSD Strategic Plan Goal Number 1. There will be no action taken at this time, but the NVUSD Curriculum Council will recommend the approval of this high school core instructional materials adoption during the April 21st, 2022 board meeting. Assistant Superintendent Pat Andre Jennings, will you be presenting this evening?
I think you need to move her over as panelist.
Thank you. There is no presentation for this particular item other than what's included in the board agenda.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Is there any virtual public comment on this item?
It looks like we do have one. The next speaker is the initial M. Go ahead, please.
We're going to now start asking for full names, please. Hello?
The hand go down.
I was the one that lowered it. Speaker, are you there? Oh, we can move on, it looks like.
Okay, we will move on to B, introduction of elementary core.
I actually have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Chu.
So I noticed that you have American Sign Language 1, American Sign Language 2, and then all of a sudden you have an honors American Sign Language 3. So is there going to also be a regular American Sign Language 3? Because my understanding is the honors is more rigorous, but what if a student isn't necessarily prepared for that rigor, but still wants to take the next level of American Sign Language?
Assistant Superintendent Jennings, can you answer that, please?
Yes, thank you so much, Trustee Chu. If that is the course we're offering, we are not offering an non-honors option for Sign Language 3. Part of the students who get and who select a Sign Language 3 typically have advanced to that level and appreciate the honors designation.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to quickly comment. I was surprised to find out on one of my visits, I think it was to New Tech High, just how popular of a course American Sign Language is with our students. And so I expect that they will truly appreciate this item getting passed in April.
It's a very popular class. It was at Vintage High School. My son was there as well. Okay, moving on to introduction of elementary core science adoption recommendation. After piloting materials for the elementary science curriculum adoption, the adoption committee consisting of classroom teachers recommends the adoption of Discovery Science for K-5 grade science. This year, the committee thoroughly reviewed and piloted 3 programs, Mcgraw-Hill, Amplify, and Discovery. The committee determined that Discovery best meets the criteria set forth in our NVUSD district lens. The selected program most effectively supports the implementation of the next generation science standards with real-world problem solving and engaging hands-on investigations, bless you, provides a balanced assessment system that helps drive instruction, includes high-quality resources for supporting multilingual learners, integrates with district technology tools, and allows for dual language immersion integration. Materials are available for public viewing in the Instructional Support Services wing of the Ed Center. And then, okay, then. So is there a presentation on this item?
Yes, there is. Director Manning will present along with some wonderful elementary teachers who will share about the piloting process and explain why we are recommending the adoption of this particular curriculum.
Wonderful. Mr. Manning?
Thank you very much. Good evening. Mr. Michaels, will you bring a presentation up, please? Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, President Jankowicz, Board of Trustees, Dr. Musetti, and Student Board Representative Ditt. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. We are pleased to provide an introduction to the science curriculum that will be recommended for the elementary school science adoption. We have conducted a thorough analysis of available programs and have found a program that we can confidently recommend as our adopted curriculum for the next 8-year adoption cycle. Next slide, please. I am joined tonight by 3 members of our Elementary Adoption Committee who will present with me: Whitney Westbrook, our lead pilot teacher and 2nd grade teacher at Donaldson Way; Laura Zinzer, 4th grade teacher at West Park; and Katie Kinsock, 2nd grade teacher at Pueblo Vista. I want to extend a huge gratitude to them and to all of the teachers who took part in this adoption process. The time and effort that they put into learning to use and teaching all of the piloted programs was a significant undertaking and is much appreciated. Next slide, please. Tonight, we will present on the pilot background, the logistics of the current pilot, our curriculum recommendation, and hear feedback from teachers to help illuminate why this program was selected. Next slide, please. The pilot officially began in 2019, was interrupted by the pandemic last year, and commenced again at the beginning of this school year. In the spring of 2019, the original committee reviewed available programs as part of a publisher fair and evaluated those programs using the district lens that you will hear more about shortly. That summer, the committee selected the initial programs to pilot, and the pilot began in the fall of 2019 with Mcgraw-Hill, Twig, and National Geographic. The 3 programs were piloted, but the process was interrupted by the pandemic beginning in the spring of 2020. At that time, the committee met and discussed next steps for the pilot. The team determined that Twig and National Geographic would not best meet our district needs, and that Mcgraw-Hill should be repiloted along with Amplify and Discovery after meeting with representatives from both of those publishers. We were not able to pilot last year, so the pilot began again in the fall of 2021. All of the teachers piloted all 3 programs for about 6 weeks each and met to evaluate and debrief after each program was taught. After careful consideration, the committee would like to move forward with Discovery as the adopted curriculum, which brings us here tonight. Next slide, please. It is not common for 5 programs to be piloted, but the pandemic and the committee's commitment to finding the best program to meet our needs gave us a great opportunity to test these 5 programs in order to make the best recommendation. All of the programs were rigorously evaluated using our NVUSD district lens and our identified needs. To share more about the district lens, our pilot logistics and selected program, I would like to introduce Whitney Westbrook. Whitney, the next slide.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. At the beginning of the piloting process, teachers, including myself, worked with the previous facilitator, Anjali Chandran, to develop a deep understanding of the district lens as it identifies the specific curriculum needs of Napa Valley Unified School District. Additionally, piloting teachers identified some elementary specific concerns that the programs would need to address. Every curriculum that was considered for the pilot process was held against this lens to see how well it could potentially meet the needs of our district and elementary schools. Some of the key elements that were identified included the need to support schools and teachers in the implementation of next generation science standards. We needed a curriculum that would provide a balanced assessment system, one that would support the inquiry-based learning that is integral to NGSS. Any program selected would also need to integrate with district-approved technology platforms such as Google Classroom. Very importantly, potential programs would need to support multilingual learners in their English language development. Additionally to supporting multilingual learners in traditional classrooms, teachers identified a need for programs to be accessible for and support instruction in dual immersion schools. Finally, programs would need to be compatible with the high number of combination classes that our district experiences. Next slide, please. Thank you. In addition to having a strong focus on the NVUSD curriculum lens, we wanted to make sure that the piloting group was a good representation of elementary teachers across the district. We had 22 teachers volunteer to pilot the various curriculum programs. These teachers represented all grades kindergarten through 5th and included staff from traditional, magnet, and dual immersion schools. Due to the interruption of COVID-19 in our first pilot year, the group was able to pilot 5 programs instead of only 3. During the first pilot year, teachers piloted Twig, Mcgraw-Hill, and National Geographic. After school transitioned to virtual learning classroom, pilots were placed on hold to accommodate modified asynchronous instructional schedules. However, during this time, the piloting teachers were able to meet and determine that National Geographic and Twig did not meet our needs as a district, but that Mcgraw-Hill warranted a second look. The team also decided to move forward this school year with piloting Mcgraw-Hill, Discovery, and Amplify. Next slide, please. Thank you. During discussions, it became apparent that 2 of the 3 programs, Amplify and Discovery, were strong contenders in terms of addressing our district's needs for a science curriculum. The team ultimately decided to recommend Discovery Education to the board because it was the program that seemed to fit the district lens and unique needs of NVUSD elementary teachers the best. While Amplify did have strong integrated ELA supports, teachers felt that it was less engaging for teachers and students, with many of the reading books being too rigorous or difficult for students to access. Some of the lessons needed to be modified before they could be used or didn't obviously connect to the focus of each unit in a way that was confusing for teachers and students. Teachers reported that they felt Amplify sometimes focused more on ELA components than on the science components. Over half, approximately 68% of the piloting teachers stated that Discovery Education was their first choice to recommend to the school board tonight. In particular, teachers felt that the pacing options, embedded support for teachers and students, additional included resources, and the ability to customize materials or use as is made the Discovery Education program easy for teachers to use and to adapt to their school or classroom needs. This is particularly important for scaffolding to accommodate combination classes, different learning levels within the same grade, and specific programs within schools such as PBL or magnets. Teachers observed that students found this program to be incredibly engaging with real-world scenarios, clear objectives, and amazing visual supports. In particular, teachers reported how the visual elements of Discovery helped their multilingual students access the curriculum as opposed to Amplify's program, which lacked the same visual support. Teachers also felt that the Discovery Education's alignment with Benchmark Advance and integrated support for multilingual learners helped it meet the needs identified on the district lens. Next slide, please. Thank you. We're very lucky to have with us tonight 2 of our amazing piloting teachers who would like to share some of their perspectives on the Discovery program. I'm going to turn it over to Laura Zinzer and Katie Kensuk. Thank you very much.
Good evening, and thank you for considering our recommendation tonight. My name is Laura Zinzer, and I'm a 4th grade teacher at West Park Elementary School. I've been a science lead for as long as our district has had them at the elementary level, and have participated in also a lot of different pilots throughout our district in my years of service. At West Park, we've not had a true NGSS program. And although we've used some of the mystery science lessons and worked with our ELA curriculum science units, it really has not been enough to give our students the hands-on science experiences that they need and deserve. During the pilot, I noticed at the 4th grade level that it was very hard for my students to pick up on the foundational science skills because they didn't have the previous experience that we're going to be expecting once we have an adoption. But what I did see with my students is that they were all excited and they looked forward to our science lessons every day. They had an opportunity to really participate in inquiry in a way that was meaningful, and they were able to participate in small groups. They could do things individually. And that was super, super helpful for me as a teacher. Across all of the grade levels, we saw support at the pilot meetings for this particular program, and that doesn't always happen. So we have a continuum of teachers from kindergarten up through 5th grade that feel confident that this program will meet our students' needs at those various grade levels. And from a teacher's perspective, the lessons are well thought out. They're easy to navigate and implement in classrooms, and that's huge in making sure that we, as very busy teachers, will have time to fully implement our science program as adopted. At our professional day last week, I had the opportunity to introduce a lot of elementary school teachers to the NGSS standards, and all of them were expressing excitement over getting an adopted program and are really eager to dive into the program that we do adopt and look at the materials and start planning for next year. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Katie Kensock. I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Pueblo Vista Elementary School. I was one of the science pilot teachers along with my grade level team. At Pueblo Vista, we plan and teach environmental science daily through reading, writing, discussion, and investigations in the garden and the science lab. When we plan science together, we look for ways to make sure that lessons are student-centered so they can develop their language and vocabulary through authentic, thought-provoking, and engaging conversations in Spanish. We love that the Discovery curriculum provided access for language learners throughout the unit we piloted. The lesson objectives were clear to us as teachers, which in turn made the lessons and the purpose of the activities clear to the students. Students were presented with images that were thought-provoking and sparked a lot of conversation about landforms, and they always made us ask, what's going on here? Which is something we love to ask the kids. This led students to investigating how landforms change quickly or slowly over time by reading text at their level with important vocabulary that connected to the images, so language learners were able to make sense of the text. They did activities that were engaging and age appropriate, both in class and in the science lab, and they watched fun and interesting videos and used digital resources to broaden their understanding. Not only were the resources in the unit interesting, but we also loved that we had that if we wanted to look up a certain landform, the Discovery search bar had a lot of access to some incredible visuals and videos, and kids love watching videos of volcanoes exploding. So it was very fun. And one moment. At the end of the unit, we had our students choose a few landforms and explain how they were created in a writing piece. And students were actually excited to write about their favorite landforms and explain what was going on using information from what they had read and seen and experienced. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much to our piloting teachers. Next slide, please. And with that, we'd like to open up to any questions or comments from the board for any of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manning. Trustee Gracia?
So I'm concerned about a comment that you made that indicated that Amplify was more rigorous and we chose not to use it because of that reason. I'm very concerned about us as a district not shirking from academic rigor. Is Discovery up to the task of providing an appropriately rigorous curriculum?
I can answer that question. So the Amplify program, what we found in the Discovery program is that there is rigorous text, but what Discovery does that Amplify doesn't do is that they provide level text that allows us to scaffold more easily for students so that they can ultimately reach the grade level text. Amplify just didn't have as many scaffolds, but Discovery does have those scaffolds so that we can get students up to the grade level text more efficiently.
So just to be clear, then we're not sacrificing rigor by choosing Discovery.
No, we're not sacrificing rigor. We're selecting a program that has the scaffolds that we need to get students up to grade level embedded in the program instead of relying on teachers to have to develop those more on their own. So the program has those embedded in Discovery.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Trustee Chu?
So I'm just going to put it out there as a scientist. I love NGSS. I love the integration of NGSS in our curriculum. That is, as a scientist, I'm really glad we're looking at this and evaluating all these platforms. I actually have a student perspective to share with the board because my fourth grader was in a classroom that also was one of the pilot test sites. And they did, and first, the kids love being the testers.
Yeah.
I think that made them really proud to be a part of the selection process. And I know, because I went and read a story to them for Read Across America, it was right after they had finished all the pilot testing, and they were so proud that they were able to do the work. So I've really only heard from my son about two programs, Discovery Education and Amplify. And I think they ended on Amplify, and that was when I went into the classroom. So they had that fresh in their mind. So they really enjoyed it. I did ask my son, so what about Discovery Education, since I knew that this was going to come up. I think he didn't quite enjoy that as much, but maybe it was because the unit was a different unit. So Amplify, he was building circuits and doing a lot of collaborative work, linking up things, whereas the Discovery Education was about earthquakes. So unless, we try to build an earthquake machine to shake up the entire class, I don't know how much more exciting that could be for him, but he did enjoy the videos. And I was just on the Discovery Education site, and it is very, very spectacularly engaging. You go on their site, they have a whole bunch of different modules. You can look at virtual field trips and all these. So I think, at least for my student, I think this platform will work well. And I'm really happy to hear that there is support for scaffolding, because I think that's really important, right? Because we can't expect all kids to be at the same level, being able to understand science at the same level. But we still need them to be educated and to really understand that logical reasoning of science and all of that inquiry that happens. So I'm glad that that is one of the selling points of Discovery Education.
Thank you. Trustee Dooley?
I agree about the NGSS standards. I think, well, that's a tautology, but I agree with that. I think that having a curriculum that is hands-on, that is inquisitive, or that encourages inquisitiveness is important. And I appreciate the balance, or at least hearing about the balance that Discovery strikes between incorporating ELA aspects, but not overwhelming the process of science education with the ELA aspects. We want to be sure that they are, able to participate in the scientific process, which does include a lot of reading and writing,
Yes.
but isn't primarily reading and writing, or doesn't, it needs to have that inquiry and hands-on aspect to it to encourage the participation and joy in the process. So that struck me as a good reason for selecting this curriculum over Amplify. And I definitely appreciate the supports that it has for teachers, and we want to have the tools that we're providing to teachers be just that, be tools, and improve their ability to teach their subjects. And it sounds like Discovery has that built in, and that's going to be important.
Thank you.
Well, I like the I like the ELA. I like anytime we show a linking between disciplines. That's good. And I think one of the things we've gotten in our culture, starting in the 20th century, we started separating the humanities from science. And if you go back, frankly, to the 18th and 19th century with the Romantics, the scientists and the poets were society's rebels, and they associated with each other. And just read Frankenstein and you'll get it. And having taught AP literature, I can tell you that even the top students walk in with varying abilities and they do need scaffolding. And when I look at elementary school children, some of them are going to be, very apt and grab it at first and others won't. And we don't want to discourage them. We want to bring them along. We want to bring them up. And that's what teachers do. And I have a lot of, I do know Ms. Kensock, and I have a lot of faith in her judgment. So so I'm going to go along with this. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Trustee Water. Good. Well, thank you, Mr. Manning, and thank you to all the teachers that spent their time and their contributions to do the research to make this decision on behalf of our students. We appreciate your work.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
And lastly, introduction of supplementary instructional materials adoptions for intervention. The Instruction Support Services Division recommends the adoption of the following supplementary instructional materials for intervention: focused mathematics intervention, focused reading intervention. The teacher-created materials are approved and used by Butte County Office of Education to address the need for extra support for our migratory students scoring below or far below. This program reinforces key concepts and builds fluency with engaging standards-based activities. No action is taken at this time, and the Instructional Support Services Division will recommend the approval of this supplementary instructional adoption during the April 21st, 2022 board meeting. Is there a presentation this evening or just notice thereof?
Thank you, President Jankowicz. No, there's no presentation with this since these are supplementary materials that are used in our migrant ed program. So just what's included in the agenda item.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment for this item.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we will move on to action items. We will start with business services, second 1A, second interim 2021-22. May I get a motion?
Move to approve, but I have a comment to make.
Yes, sir.
I will second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Wait.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead with your comment and I have to ask for public comment.
Sure.
No, go right ahead.
So my vote tonight on this item is conditioned on staff making sufficient changes to this budget to get deficit spending under control. If this is the type of budget that comes to the board at budget adoption, you will not have my support. I grudgingly approve second interim only with the understanding that this will not fly at budget adoption.
Do you have a comment as well? Yeah, I had a first by trustee.
Public.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment on this item?
There's no public comment for this item.
Mr. Michaels. First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Dooley. No public comment. Student board rep.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We move on to instructional services, school plan for student achievement addendums.
To approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Do we have any public comment, Mr. Michaels?
There is a public comment. Lori Turner, go ahead, please.
Ms. Turner?
Oh, hello.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. It's very difficult sometimes with the technology. I appreciate you guys being patient. My name is Lori Turner. I'm a community member. And I just wanted to make of note that I tried to use the One Tap Mobile. It was not working. I called in for open comment earlier. Once I did get through on the phone line, I waited for an invite to raise my hand for public comment, and that was not given as an option. So I was kind of left out of that. And then I decided to wait for a moment, try to tend to the family and come back to return. And the meeting had, I guess, gone off agenda. So I'm also frustrated because I think item M1E was taken earlier. Can someone verify that if I'm?
Yes, it was. There was an amended motion to move the item to the beginning of the meeting. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if someone knows that they're calling on the agenda for an item that's last in the evening and they're planning for that, they have to instead listen in the beginning to make sure you guys don't change the agenda, because I didn't realize that was possible. You can change the agenda in the beginning of the meeting.
The agenda, and it would require attendance for the entirety of the meeting or at the beginning of the meeting. So
Ms. Turner, I'd be happy
Okay.
to take your,
Okay, so my comment was that, well, the supporting documents that you had on that item, the links and the rationale section of the item for COVID public health was leading just into general sites like the California Department of Public Health. I don't know if you guys have ever contacted the California Department of Public Health. I have. I've contacted them for 2 years. I've been trying to find out really what the deal is with the masks and ask them several questions, like who is responsible for making the decision and for have the alternatives to masking been considered. I asked them based on what specific evidence of benefit weighing risk did the California Department of Public Health insist upon requiring constant experimental emergency use authorized face coverings for minors 100% of the time on campus. They came back with their answer saying, we do not have a direct answer at this time. So what I'm wondering is, how come they can just post something on a website with no benefit outweighing risk and not honor what the FDA calls an emergency use authorized device categorization where everyone should have informed consent? That's for masks, tests, and vaccines. I don't see how anyone on any board can go forward violating the informed consent clause in the FDA. And whether the California Department of Public Health or the local department puts that up, that is a complete violation. And I really urge you guys to reconsider where your sources are for this information. They have not explained themselves. So just a warning. Thank you.
thank you. Any more public comment on the agenda item?
There is no more public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Instructional services, 2B Sonoma State University Agreement.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment on this item.
Board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. AG Completion Improvement Grant.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Adventure More Memorandum of Understanding, ELO, Summer Camp Programs.
Believe we still have to do the Boys and Girls Club.
I did AG completion and I go straight to.
Yeah. No, I see Edmo
I
next.
have it as right under AG. Unless it was an addition that I don't have. Correct. I have two and I have one and then I go to Boys and Girls Club and then I have the other. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So may I get a motion on D?
Move to approve.
Trustee Gracia, first by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do I have any public comment on 2D?
There is no public comment for this item.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Boys and Girls Club Memorandum of Understanding.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Board rep.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The second adventure MOU.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
Would like some discussion briefly.
second by trustee Dooley. Discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that we have potentially 2 EDMO programs that we'll be approving. One is which is offered for free and the other is just partially subsidized. I think it's going to be difficult for parents to understand which one they qualify for or which one they should be applying for. So I just want to make sure we do a really good job of making sure that the right folks get to the right program. So it's an emphasis on communication, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Can we talked a bit about this in the Curriculum and Student Support Services Committee meeting. Would Mr. Manning be able to explain the registration procedures for the free program that's offered as under the ELOP grant, and then the paid version of Edmo?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So there is that potential for confusion. So to mitigate that, what we're doing is we're registering for the free ELOP program, ELOP funded programming, which includes Boys and Girls Club, NCOE, and Edmo. We're registering students for those programs centrally. So as parents are registering, they're registering for an NVUSD summer school program. They won't necessarily know until they go into the program which one of those partners they're paired with, depending on the school site. So that's an NVUSD centralized registration. And then families who are enrolling in Edmo for the fee-based program, that's completely separate. They're using our school sites, but that's being enrolled through Edmo, advertised through Edmo. So families would just enroll for that as they would for any other summer program that's being offered in the community. So we feel that will mitigate the confusion by having centralized registration for all of our free programs for families.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Board rep, do you have another comment? Okay, student board rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. New high school course of study for world language.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Do we have public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Board rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Adoption of core and supplementary instructional material adoptions for high schools.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student board rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Memorandum of Understanding between Howell Mountain Elementary School District and Napa Valley Unified School District.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Board rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Under school planning and construction, A, SBC number 1920, request to purchase furnishings for the American Canyon Middle School Student Commons Project.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
You, student board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. SPC 15.62-17, request for special inspection services for the Bel Air and Napa Valley Language Academy finishing kitchens to construction testing services CTS.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels.
There is no public comment for this item.
Student board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. SBC number 1.5-22, request for property line survey services by Chaudry and Associates.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels.
There is no public comment for this item.
Student board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. SBC number 18.60-20, request for approval of special inspection services at NVLA at Napa Valley Language Academy by Consolidated Engineering Laboratories.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. SBC number 16-22, request for contract with VIS for Inspector of Record Services at the Verizon Cell Tower at Napa High School. May I get a motion?
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels,
There is no public comment for this item.
student board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. SBC number 18.61-20, request for contract with Arcana Project Inspection for IOR services at the Napa Valley Language Academy Campus Modernization Project.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels,
There is no public comment for this item.
board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. SBC number 18.62-20, request to award leaseback agreement with Wright Contracting for Napa Valley Language Academy.
Move to approve.
Trustee Gracia, first by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any virtual public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student board rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We move on to the informational section. Items under this section do not require board action. Curriculum and Student Support Committee. That we're going to go through.
Yes, so for these, just, well, before we go through all of the committees, I just want to make something clear. So as we agreed in our governance, our last governance session, we discussed that we were no longer going to do reporting out in order to create efficiency in the meeting. And so we're attaching the minutes, and this is, I think, the second or third time that we've demonstrated that on the agenda. I just want to let the board know and the public know if they're interested. There's a little bit of a timing factor. We came to realize that as we executed on this agenda. So if the committee meeting happens in enough time for the turnaround of staff to be able to get the minutes done, have the assistant superintendent, staff who are on that committee approve, review the minutes and get it onto the agenda, it will be there. But sometimes that there just won't be time for that quick turnaround. So it'll have to go to, the minutes will have to be attached at a subsequent meeting, which may create some distance between when the actual committee meeting happened and when those minutes are made available. So just to make it really clear, this week is a great example. We had a curriculum committee, we had an F&T committee, we had one on Tuesday, one's on Wednesday. We had finance. Finance was late last week, which we were able to get the minutes on the agenda. But the two that happened this week, the turnaround was just too difficult. So those will be posted at the subsequent meeting. You would have reported out on those at this meeting if we would have continued with our reporting out practice. So
Should we run through them and acknowledge whether the meeting happened so people can look for the minutes? Would
yeah,
that be
that
appropriate?
That works. Did the meeting happen? The meeting may have
Or
happened.
the minutes will come, I
The
should say.
minutes will come,
Because
yeah.
well, let's,
So for example, you want to go through the items.
Curriculum and Student Support Committee.
So we met yesterday. The minutes will be at a subsequent meeting.
Correct.
I appreciate that. F&T, Facilities and Technology.
We did on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, we met on the 15th. There'll be minutes at a future meeting.
Finance Committee attached.
Attached.
They don't show on mine, so thank you. Policy Committee.
We did not meet
Okay,
yet.
and we amended the agenda to accommodate that. So we move on to Business Services and the Enrollment Report. Any comments other than the obvious?
No, more bad news.
Well, just wait until 5 years when people, there's a dip because nobody had babies during COVID.
This is true.
It went down.
But Napa
Seriously.
Pipe's coming.
We're going to move quickly on to update on chronic absenteeism for month 7. Any comments?
Briefly, I want to say well done on getting an overall 2% decrease in our chronic absenteeism. That's important. Unfortunately, the overall trend is still alarming, so we have lots of work to do there.
Thank you, Trustee Gracia. Additional suggestions and comments from board members or superintendent?
I do have one,
Trustee Water?
uncharacteristically brief. The presentation from our elementary school teachers from Puebla Vista And West Park reminded me that we have a lot of talent in the district, and I neglected to say that I went to the professional development day and went to 3 workshops. And I would like to say that Ann Grant and Kendra Parsons are extremely talented people, and we're fortunate to have them working for us. That's it.
I appreciate that anecdote. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Future agenda items, any submissions or suggestions? And lastly, the button's ready. I see over there, trustee Gracia, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
First by trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.